You're dying on the inside, working 40 hours a week, struggling to make ends meet, putting off any plans in the hopes of one day enjoying your life when you turn 65. Social media is full of influencers telling us we need to work harder, work more hours, cut off contact with our friends, or delay any form of fun until we retire. Well, what if the opposite could be true? What if we could live a more fulfilling life now, achieve more, have more fun and work less? TIm Ferriss asked this exact question in 2007, and his answer was the 4-hour work week. Now, I know what you're thinking. What a clickbait title. No one can possibly work just 4 hours a week, but it's the kind of radical thinking that can lead to radical solutions. The 4-hour work week is not for everyone, but regardless of the kind of lifestyle you'd like to live, there are some valuable lessons which you might be able to implement. Doing what everyone else does will get you what everyone else has, so if you really want a life that is different, you will need the courage to challenge conventional wisdom and do things differently. So here are 5 things I learned from the 4-hour work week. Number 1, you don't need more time, you need fewer distractions. First of all, let's consider how many hours you may waste at work in meetings, chatting with co-workers, answering emails, checking your phone, etc. If we were to aggregate all this time in a week, how many hours would you say you actually spent focused on your work? And you still managed to achieve your tasks at the end of the week, despite those wasted hours. So actually, you probably could have completed your work in half the time. So why did it take you a week? This is known as Parkinson's law, where a task expands to fit the time allotted. If you're given a week to do something, it will take you a week to do it. If you're given a month, it will take a month, and so on. So imagine someone put a gun to your head right now and said you need to complete all your work for the week within 4 hours or it's game over. What would you do? Even if you don't find a solution that equals exactly 4 hours, I bet you'll start looking for drastic solutions. You'll get creative. You may find something that reduces your work time by 50%. That's still better than what you started with. The average office worker spends about 4 hours a week in meetings. 70% of employees say that their meetings aren't productive and they're a total waste of time. So that takes us down to 36 hours per week worked. Now let's take an hour lunch break out every day, and that takes our hours down to 31. The average employee spends around 2 hours a day doing non-work related activities on their phone, texting, reading the news, checking social media, etc. So then that takes us down to 21 hours. Another 2 hours a day on average are lost to checking, reading and responding to emails. So that takes us down to 11 hours a week. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh there and your job actually requires you to respond to emails all day, but bear with me. Taking into account another 5 hours a week for distractions from chatty co-workers, if you account all the times that they approach you during the day and talk about their week, etc., and that takes us down to 6 hours a week. These are just some averages. You may be less distracted, or you may be even more distracted than this in your place of work, in which case you in fact already are living a 4-hour work week. You just haven't realized it yet. Our brains can only focus on a task for a short amount of time before needing to recharge, and so spending longer hours at work doesn't lead to more productivity. So how can we improve our productivity? One thing we can do is embrace the 80-20 principle. This is the idea that 20% of your activities produce 80% of the value, and the other 80% of activities are producing 20% of the value. If you work in sales, you'll find 20% of your clients will account for 80% of your revenue. Perhaps 20% are producing 80% of your hassle. Now, it will depend how much freedom you have in your output of your work. If you're a salaried office worker, this is likely to be less, but look to maximizing time spent on the 20% and eliminating that unproductive 80% as much as possible. The best way, of course, to do this is to start your own business, which leads me to number 2, create a passive income stream. When your earnings are tied proportionally to the hours worked, you're going to reach the inevitable point where you cannot work any more hours to earn more money. You can't work any harder, you need to work smarter. And it's not just money. Unless your job is your dream, you are wasting hours that you could spend doing other things you actually want to do. You could try starting an online business, such as dropshipping popular items on Amazon. You could write an ebook on a subject you're knowledgeable on. You could design a course or start a YouTube channel. This could be anything that takes your interest, and once you've invested some hours initially in creating, it can continue to generate income for you without your oversight. This is not something that will magically happen overnight and will take time to build up. You'll need to do your research and learn how to monetize your skills, but this time spent now is an investment in your future freedom from the 9 to 5. Number 3. Focus on relative wealth. It's easy to get fixated on your salary without considering other factors, such as the cost of living, free time, etc. If you take a higher paying job in another city, But suddenly you go from paying 25% of your salary on rent to 55%, and you spend 2 hours a day commuting to and from work. Are you really better off? If you manage your finances well, you may find you're actually better off in the lower paying job, where your outgoings are also lower. If person A earns $50,000 a year, but only works 10 hours a week, and person B earns $150,000 a year, but works 50 hours a week, person A is much richer. He is paid more per hour than person B, and has more free time to actually enjoy the money he has earned. It's worth remembering what you actually wanted to do with your money in the first place, and if you spend your entire life fixated on the number, rather than what it is you want the money to do for you risk missing the woods for the trees. The whole point of money is to facilitate the lifestyle that you want to live. It is not the end in itself, but rather a means to an end. If you can reduce your living costs so you need less money to start with, you can work part-time and then supplement your income with passive income streams. Although on paper you may be earning less money than a full-time job, you have provided for your living costs whilst allowing yourself to do things you actually enjoy doing. And this is the whole point of the 4-hour work week. It's not about maximizing your income stream, it's about earning enough money to live the life that you want whilst working the minimum amount necessary to do that. Number 4. Be location independent. If you're lucky enough to work a remote job, you could take this a step further and exploit something known as geo-arbitrage. As Ferriss puts it, earn in dollars, spend in pesos. At the time this book came out, remote work was a scandalous prospect. It is far more feasible today than ever before. Earning a moderate salary in a developed country can provide for a very comfortable living in the likes of Latin America or Southeast Asia. If you wanted to relocate for a few months, you could carry on working and enjoy your surroundings in your downtime. Now, for the record, I'm not advising you to move to Ecuador for 3 months without telling your work, but it does beg the question. If you can produce consistently the same level of work, why should it matter whether you're in Quito or in London? Again, this may not be practical for everybody, and it's likely most people won't want to do this, but there are many examples in the book of people who have done just that. This book brought into mainstream the concept of the digital nomad, someone who can work from anywhere in the world and move location whenever they want, with no ties to a particular area. Number 5. Be effective, not efficient. There's a common fallacy that being busy is somehow productive, and somehow going from meeting to meeting is a sign of importance and how much you are achieving. But here's the harsh truth. Just because you are busy does not mean you are achieving anything. Just because something is difficult or took you a long time to do does not mean that it is important. We tell ourselves something is important if we've spent a lot of time doing it to justify to ourselves all the energy we've expended on it. Productivity is not about trying to do more things for the sake of doing more things. It's about trying to do things which are important and ignoring everything else. Instead of creating the ultimate organizing app which filters through all your emails and color codes them into neat little categories, why not just spend less time reading emails to start with? Another harsh truth is that no one actually values your time. If you don't value your time, no one else will. The living hell of every corporate employee is meetings for the sake of meetings, mental masturbation on Zoom calls, generating an endless sea of emails to look busy, the forming of yet another working group to brainstorm ideas. So this is why in the book Ferriss recommends cutting out meetings as much as possible, or totally if you can. But this will alienate a lot of people. They might think you're being difficult, but let's be honest. There are very few things which can't be said in an email which can be said in a meeting. And most meetings achieve very little if we're being honest with ourselves. People turn up late, you're waiting around for them to get started, someone else turns up unprepared, and then someone else goes off on a tangent about something totally unrelated to the meeting. And then they suggest another meeting on top of that because they didn't manage to cover what they were supposed to in the first place. So protect your time because no one else will. If you can avoid doing something unnecessary, eliminate it. Now, inevitably, there are going to be some tasks which you won't be able to eliminate completely, and you'll still need to do them. So this is where delegation comes in. Now, the example in the book that Ferriss gives for this is hiring a virtual assistant from somewhere like India or China, someone who's college educated, who speaks good English, who can answer your emails on your behalf, or deal with clients, or process orders, etc., organize your calendar. Now, whilst personally I'm not against this in principle, and it does offer a great way to have your own personal assistant without being a millionaire, this option is obviously only available to you if you're living in a developed country, and you're able to exploit the gap in living standards between another country. So what option do you have if you're living in India or the Philippines, for example? You can't outsource to another country. And this is where we can build on the principles of the 4-hour work week with the technology available to us today. There are literally thousands of AI tools which can assist you in completing your work tasks now, which previously you'd have to hire another human being to do. Let's say you need to read a bunch of articles to write up that report. No problem. AI can summarize the main points from all of them. Maybe you need to process some data and visualize it. AI's got that too. Let's say you need to learn a new skill. You could use AI to draft a personalized step-by-step program on how to learn a new skill that you need. Or you could even take it a step further and train a chatbot on your responses to act on your behalf in most cases. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of all the things you're able to do with AI, but it does give you some ideas about what things you could potentially outsource. And there's a much more affordable entry price because all you need is a stable internet connection instead of having the spare money to pay for a virtual assistant. So there we have it. You don't have to be moving city every month whilst managing your e-commerce business to appreciate some of the principles of the 4-hour work week. But if you can take some of these lessons to better optimize your time to do the things you love, you may be able to live the life you want, even if it isn't in line exactly with 4 hours a week. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to buy the 4-hour work week, there's a link in the description. See you soon.